designed our weekly video segment to take you into the back shelves of your local video store, back where it says horror videos, and where kids are devouring some awful films that we call the video nasties.
Are you freebasing? Inquiring minds want to know.
I have to break free from this culture of mechanical reproductions and the thick incrustations dying on the surface.
Fuck the prime time, bitch!
Monmouth in the flesh.
The pain, I can assure you, will be exquisite. As for our deaths, come with me and be immortal.
We have such sights to show you.
Gotta return some videotapes.
Hello, ho, horror hounds, and welcome to the SLEIGHS podcast. I'm your humble host, Rowan.
And I'm your Nintendo Power Glove, Mike.
Bonjour, je suis Colton.
Oh, that's so cute. It's me, Jill.
And we are back for a holiday episode. I apologize in advance because I realized after I did the intro, it kind of sounded like I just called everyone a hoe. So
yeah, did.
Yeah,
it's a little problematic.
Where's the lie?
To kick things off.
Yeah, or maybe we're just all hoes deep down in our hearts. But that's okay. Hopefully everyone is having a good holiday season. Luckily, I know my way, no snow. That's the kind of holiday I like. So, let's, make global warming great again so we can get rid of the snow.
Oh my
is that are we coming out with the red hats?
Yeah.
Make global warming great again.
This is what the sky is going to look like all day, every day in 15 years.
Oh, no.
Anything to make sure there's no snow, I'm okay with, guys. But yeah, I think we've got a lot to get into. So let's start off with what we have been consuming. What have we been watching? What have we been listening to? What have we been reading? Unless it's Sarah J. Maas. Let's get into it. Mike, we'll start with you.
Okay, yes, start with me. I have literally been doing nothing but rewatching the OC because I'm going through a spiral.
Thank you.
And
when I say rewatch, yeah. I knew Ro would appreciate it. I don't know. I feel like I do that every year and a half or so because it's very comforting. So yeah, honestly, that's literally it's Christmas time, so I just don't stop, and then I switch my brain off. So therefore, the OC.
You gotta get that Christmaka episode into you.
Oh, of course. But I mean, what about you? Have you been rewatching the OC?
I mean, I already rewatched the OC this year, so I'll probably not do it again this year. I try to rewatch it every year, so...
I've only ever seen a season or two of the OC. Does that show get really weird, near the end of it? Does it get, is there alternate realities?
It doesn't get good, that's for sure.
Okay. I seem to remember somebody in high school watching the OC and basically being like, man, this show gets really strange by the end of it, but I just never made it that far.
Because I feel like after the second season, people are like, I don't want to really do this show anymore, and then they're adding people, and people are dying off, and...
Yeah.
It had a steep decline very quickly, so...
But, it's still good.
Oh, yeah, it's pretty silly.
It's still enjoyable. But, yeah, I definitely think they were all, all the people that got, kind of catapulted to, it status were, instantly thinking they were better than it, and then realized that they were probably not going to have much of a career after.
They thought they were better than it, and the next thing they knew, they were in a movie called The Toy Box, so...
I thought you were going to say The Kid Detective, and I was going to say, dude, that movie rocks. Everyone should go see The Kid Detective.
And our movie for this evening, The Kid Detective.
Oh, yeah, that could be another alternate title for this one. Wouldn't be too far off.
Add it to the list.
True. What have you been watching, Ro?
Oh, Jesus, you're putting me in the
I
middle.
heard 100 things, yeah.
No, he tried to throw it to you.
I did,
now,
and I say thank you, and he didn't take it.
It just went over his head, yeah.
Yeah, I know. Sorry,
it was
guys.
too good of a segue, Mike. That was the issue.
You gotta say... What about you, Rowan? What are you watching? You have to spell it out for this man.
Yeah, it's the tone. I only recognize tone. I'm like an animal or something. Then I'm like, oh, okay, it's my turn. Yeah, I did watch quite a bit of things because I made a goal for myself at the beginning of the year that I said I was going to at least watch 365 things for the year. So every day I watch something. And then, of course, life gets in your way. and I realized that I need to really step on the gas on this one.
Where are you at? Just curious.
Let's take a look here. So I am currently at 348.
Oh, geez, dude. All right.
I've got this. 3 movies.
Getting there, yeah.
3 movies a day. I'm good. I'm also on top of that trying to, watch things that like I didn't get to see in the theater this year, and I'm trying to like track down copies of it, all that kind of stuff. Like I still haven't watched Past Lives yet.
God, that's my number 1 of the year, and you still haven't seen it, but that's nothing new. You probably still haven't seen my number 1 of last year.
Well, what one was that?
Well, actually, you've seen After Sun, but my number 2 is Everything Everywhere, which I don't think you've
No,
seen
I still
yet.
haven't seen it yet. I can't watch that, or the joke would not be able to continue on.
Nothing, nowhere, ever is gross.
I'll go quick on like the rewatches. So I have already rewatched May December just because everyone I kind of listened to and the discourse about it on like other podcasts and stuff all said it was even better the second time, and that you picked up all this other stuff. It's just as good the second time. It's like that might be number 1 so far on my list for this year. I really, really enjoyed it.
I feel like that doesn't really matter too much when you read Rowan reviews quite often, though, because you put up number 1s of the year probably like at least half a dozen times every year.
That's right.
I understand you can always be reevaluating and finding a new number 1, but I just feel like I see it a little bit more from Rowan reviews.
I'm sure.
Yeah,
I'm sure I've
definitely.
said it many times. I probably saw it like I got out of Five Nights at Freddy's, and I'm like, it can't get better than this for the year.
Yeah.
It's about time you got some self-awareness.
Yeah, exactly. So I rewatched that, and then I did a rewatch of RoboCop because we watched it with a young guy at work. He hadn't seen it before, and thankfully Tubi brought all the RoboCops back on, so checked it out on there. And then a rewatch from my childhood that I hadn't seen since I was a child, Dolph Lundgren's Masters of the Universe, which
Oh, God.
is fantastic. It's so ridiculously cheap, but not really. And if you need an explanation, it's produced by Canon Movies that brought you films like American Ninja and things like that. And it's fantastic. It's like, they just don't make them like that anymore. It's like a real epic fantasy. He-Man's in it, but does He-Man use a sword only once in the movie? Yeah, because the rest of the time he's just using like an AK-47 and shooting everybody. So it's silly.
And Ponderosa.
It's silly. It's fun. Also, teenage Courtney Cox is one of the stars of it. So, kind of cool to see a young Courtney Cox. And then another rewatch I did was The Lodge. It's winter, and that was another one we watched with the young fella at work. He had never seen it. Not as hot on it as we were, which was weird because he's a A24 bro, so I thought it might be up his alley.
Was it just too boring for him?
Well,
Too slow burn?
it was one of those movies that afterwards, like, we're done, we're at work, and I'm thinking maybe it shouldn't have been a work movie.
Yeah.
Like, it just maybe not the atmosphere for it, but that's okay. And then I also rewatched one of my favorites, which is the original Kings of Comedy. It's like one of my all-time favorite stand-up movies, directed by Spike Lee. If you haven't seen it, I highly, highly suggest it. It's basically about the original Kings of Comedy tour, which was like kind of one of the first like super tours of comedians, but definitely the first like black comedian super tour. And it was like D.L. Hughley, Cedric the Entertainer, Steve Harvey, and Bernie Mac, like all in their like heyday, fresh off of like Def Jam comics and stuff. And I really enjoyed it. If you go to my Letterboxd, you'll see I didn't necessarily enjoy a lot of the Letterboxd reviews on it, but that's okay. White people be white people in, so
fair.
Yeah, super fair. So then I saw some movies. I've been trying to watch movies that were on my list I haven't seen. So I finally saw Confess Fletch. I think I've talked about it on the podcast. I'm a huge like John Hamm fan. big Mad Men guy over here. And it was pretty good. For a movie that I wasn't necessarily interested in, I thought it was pretty good. I've never seen the original Fletch movies with Chevy Chase, but I am interested in seeing them now. But John Hamm's always good. It was low-key, like, I could be on my phone. You're not, like, missing anything, but it had some good laughs in it. So I was good with that. I watched Pain and Gain.
Michael Bay, right? That's
Michael Bay.
Like weightlifting rock one where he got super big.
I was like super into this.
Okay.
Yeah, The Rock playing a ex-con sober recovering meth addict that becomes like a Jesus lover that also has like these weird undertones that like he may or may not be gay. I like Michael Bay, obviously. I've talked about, like, I enjoy kind of the American filmmaking of Michael Bay. But this is, like, really, it's kind of interesting. Like, everybody's shitty in this movie. Like, no one's good. It's just about con men and scammers. It's based on a true story, so that was kind of interesting. Also very interesting because they show you pictures of all the people afterwards, and absolutely no one looks anything remotely like the people. Like, the guy The Rock plays is like 90 pounds soaking wet.
Yeah, I was gonna say, there's no way a meth addict would wind up being the size of The Rock. Like, you know, like, that's just insane.
But yeah, it's super funny, and it's just about, like, super stupid gym bros that are, like, trying to pull off these, like, robberies, but can barely spell their, like, first names. And, I thought it was pretty good. It was pretty funny. I feel like most of the world, I watched Leave the World Behind. I
watched that as well.
I actually saw it twice. Just because.
What's wrong with you?
Well, because you know how it goes. Because Exilia also wanted to watch it, and I knew she would kind of be into it. So I saw it at work, and then I watched it with Exilia. I think last night we watched it, or the night before. What did you think of it, Colton?
I thought it was good overall. I think it's one of those movies that can probably best be described as just kind of strange. Like, I think kind of the ambiguousness of, like, what's happening the entire movie, kind of the blending of different genre tropes, the different characters kind of coming together, just permeates, like, this uneasiness throughout the entire thing that I found, you know, fun to watch. My main issues with the movie is just some probably really clunky philosophical dialogue, people talking about big ideas between one another, you know, maybe after a couple of drinks, or just kind of philosophizing about, like, the world, which is just, you know, kind of cringy sometimes. And also the camera work, which I realize is a really a hot topic when it comes to this movie, because most people love the camera work. But I just thought it was, like, overkill, way too showy, constantly distracting. It's the type of thing where, like, a car will be driving down the road, the camera will come in and, like, swoop in through the passenger window and, like, frame up the two characters talking, and then swoop into the back seat and show one on an iPad and show a kid on her phone and pull out of the, you know, the rear of the car. Just, like, crazy shit for, it's just like, guys, there's people talking in a car. Like, why did we need a crane and, you know, all this shit to accomplish it? That, for me, it was just a little bit too showy. What do you think about the camera work in the movie overall?
The camera work was pretty wild.
It's crazy.
I didn't mind it as much. Yeah.
Okay.
I did think it was kind of funny just because it was another Netflix property, like, right after May December, that, like, basically used the exact same zoom in techniques as May December. Like, just, like, quickly zooming into people's faces, like, uncomfortably close. That I was like, did they literally just, like, screen their, like, edits for each other? And they were like, oh yeah, like, let's just use the same effects here. I overall liked the movie, probably because I was really worried that this was going to be like a M. Night Shyamalan incident, and then it wasn't, so I was like, all right, I'm okay with that.
Yeah, the ending and stuff worked for me as well, which I saw a lot of people being kind of upset by it as well. But at least it's one of those movies where at least we do get answers at the end of it. Like, I was fully expecting to be, like, no resolution at all by the end of the movie, but at least there are some answers, and, you know, I felt good with it all.
Yeah, and I find, like, most people need, like, the general public seems to want a spelled out ending to, like, where, like you said, I like this where you get answers, but you don't really get, like, a finality, which is fine with me. I I like to guess what's happening, which I hope is just Ethan Hawke being charming for the rest of this post-apocalyptic world. I got to see Dungeons and Dragons Honor Among Thieves finally.
That's fun.
Yeah, I mean, that's pretty much how I would describe it. Like, I don't think it, it's not like the 2023 best movie, but I had fun with it. I've played Dungeons and Dragons once when I was on mushrooms one time, and that's my experience with it. I don't really know anything about it. You don't really have to know anything about it.
You don't have to. It's nothing about the game.
Yeah, but I thought it was a fun time. I thought everyone was good. I thought Michelle Rodriguez was good, and Chris Pine. Everyone was fantastic. Hugh Grant was pretty charming and sleazy in it, which I enjoyed.
There's one really good chase sequence in that movie with the shape-shifting character that I remember when I watched it in theaters. I really liked that, where she's changing into all these different forms as she's like escaping the castle. Yeah, that was a really good sequence.
I'd shout her out. I can't think of her name. I just know it's the woman that played Beverly in the It movies, like
Sophia Lillis.
Sophia,
yes.
yeah, she was fantastic in that. I also got to check out. Came out this week. Headliners Only. It's like a Kevin Hart and Chris Rock documentary. I'm not as interested in Kevin Hart, but obviously, I think I've said before, like, I'm a huge, like, Chris Rock is one of my all-time favorite comics. And this is a documentary about co-headline tour they did towards the end of last year, beginning of this year. This is like after the Will Smith stuff. And basically just, it's kind of in the theme of Kings of Comedy. Behind the curtains, I watched this before I watched Kings of Comedy. I was inspired to watch that. But them just talking about how comics don't really ever, like, musicians will, like, team up and do concerts, but comics, they were talking about, kind of have this ego where, like, you've got to be the guy, it's your show, and they have a bunch of unknown comics open for you, and they wanted to say, no, we could be, like, gigantic comics and gigantic black comics and, like, sell out stadiums and all this kind of stuff. And it was pretty interesting just to kind of see the behind the scenes of it. Even the Kevin Hart stuff, I didn't really know about, like, his upbringing and about his mom passing away, like, really early before he became famous. And apparently before he was Kevin Hart, his comic name was, like, Little Kev the Bastard. And it was like, basically he did that live for a couple shows, and then this, like, OG comic was like, yeah, you got to change your name, man, or you're never going to make it. Just use your real name. And then he did, and then he basically, like, blew up. But the most interesting stuff about it, I thought, was Chris Rock talked a lot about being on Saturday Night Live, and essentially just, like, the shit show that people don't get to see of being a black comic on Saturday Night Live, and, basically how they sought after him because he was really popular on the stand-up scene, and then basically, like, just never used him in the show, just because he was black, essentially. And talked about his transition to In Living Color and, the shit show that was that. And just, it was really interesting. If you're in the Chris Rock, I suggest to check it out. I also got to see American Symphony. That was on my list of things to see for this year, just because I feel like it's probably gonna get nominated.
For what? American
documentary.
Symphony? Gotcha. Okay.
It is a documentary about John Baptiste, who most people would know. He was the frontman of the band for Late Night with Stephen Colbert, but he basically became famous because he went viral on the internet. He's a jazz, classical, and R&B musician from New Orleans. And this is a documentary about him coming off of his award wins. He was the most nominated male of all time for the Grammys. He had been nominated for 11 and he won 5. He won, like, best album, best artist. He basically, like, blew everybody out the year before. And he was basically doing this Carnegie Hall Symphony performance that he's been working on for 4 or 5 years. And it's about that, but it's also about him getting married to his partner who has had leukemia since she was 22. And basically, like, her going through, like, this bone marrow transplant and everything while this is going on. It was all right. I thought it was going to be better. I saw a lot of people, like, saying good things about it, and it was just very superficial. You didn't ever really get in the mind of John Baptiste while all this is going on. He made sure that everything he said was, like, super vague and poetic, and like that he came off as like this kind of madman genius artist, even though like there'd be times where you could tell, well, he's probably not really like that because he'd talk normal to people. But anytime he's being interviewed for the camera, he's trying to give off this like artistic feel.
This mystique.
Yeah. And then the last new thing I saw was Fair Play. I watched it last night. It was a roller coaster ride.
It's a weird one.
Yeah, I went from like 3-star to 1-star, and then it came back up to the 4-star I gave
the
it.
Same as Jaws. I saw it this morning.
Yeah.
I gave it the same rating as Jaws.
Yeah, I got really worried that we were just going to end off with like rape and things like that. And I was like, this is weird. And then I was like, all right, yeah, okay, you can win it. And then other than that, it was just a lot of Christmas stuff. Like I've just been watching bad Christmas
Shrek the Halls.
Shrek the Halls was the best thing I watched. I watched The Bad Guys Christmas. It sucks. There are no voice actors from the movie. Apparently it has to do with the TV show, not the movie. So none of the voice actors returned for the TV show. The guy that plays Sam Rockwell's part literally is just doing an imitation of Sam Rockwell's voice, but it's like so slightly off that you know it's not Sam Rockwell.
Yeah.
I watched Family Switch, which is the new Ed Helms Netflix Christmas movie. It sucked. It's just a Freaky Friday movie. The best one.
Has he done anything good since like the Hangover movies?
No, pretty much not. The only good one I really liked was Candy Cane Lane, which is the new Eddie Murphy one.
I also watched that.
Yeah. What did you think of it, Jill?
It was decent. I didn't love it, but I do love Eddie Murphy, and he
was great in it, so...
Yeah, there was a lot of promotion for that movie, and you kept talking about it. I thought it was like whimsical. It was funny. It was a Christmas movie. They did their own thing. I just don't like Amy Schumer.
Oh, she's not in it, is she?
No.
Is she?
No.
No, she just wants to say how much she dislikes her.
I just gotta. Who's the chick then? Is that not Amy Schumer?
No, you're thinking. I forget her name, Jillian something, or that's her character.
Gillian Jacobs.
It's not.
It's the girl from Workaholics that plays the...
Oh, Jillian Bell.
Yeah, that plays the receptionist.
I am shook right now because I thought that was Amy fucking Schumer.
Yeah,
Cut this out. Cut this part out.
No,
how dare you? You just called Jillian Bell Amy Schumer.
They look
You just ruined
the
this girl's
same.
career.
Oh my god. We have the same name too. Jesus. Ooh. Well, I thought, I was watching it and I was like, I hate Amy Schumer, but she's doing a good job, so I'm glad it's not Amy Schumer.
There you go. You saved it.
Yeah, I thought it was pretty good. I mean, it's basically just Jumanji, but a Christmas movie with Eddie Murphy. Eddie Murphy's charming. It's directed by the same guy that did the original House Party movie.
I got a question though. How old is Eddie Murphy?
Ancient.
He's got to be late 50s.
Okay, why is he still playing the same, character, like a dad, to, younger kids, and he's that old?
I'm fine with it.
I know it's possible, but, I'm like, maybe you should become the grandpa.
He doesn't want to admit that he's old and has fell off.
I mean, he doesn't look old. I'm just saying, I would like to see Eddie Murphy.
He does look pretty good for being that old, so...
Yeah, he does.
But yeah, I thought it was good. I mean, take it with a grain of salt, because I generally don't like Christmas movies, so, I don't think Christmas movies are usually that good anyway, so this was
I actually don't believe that.
I can watch it. It's true. There's only a couple that are good. And that's all I'm going to talk about. I watched Office Christmas Party. I talked about it last year. I talked about it the year before.
That one.
I watch it every year. I bought it on 4K.
So good.
It's fantastic. Watch it. Which also stars the fake Amy Schumer in it. So,
I'm never going to live that down. I'm
Yeah, no.
so embarrassed. I'm going to crawl into a hole.
Honestly, you should be.
So I'm passing it to Jill. Jill, let us know what other Amy Schumer films you watched.
Man, I get so much shit around here, and maybe I deserve it, but goddamn. So yeah, apart from Candy Cane Lane, that doesn't have Amy Schumer in it, apparently. Yesterday I went to go see the new Godzilla movie, Godzilla -1, and I know Colton also saw that today, right?
Yeah.
Do you want to say
You go
anything
first.
about
I think you
it?
liked
Yeah,
it
okay.
a little bit more than me. So
Really?
yeah.
Okay.
A little bit more, yeah.
All right. Yeah, I thought it was fucking incredible. I laughed, I cried, I was amazed, I was impressed. I think Godzilla is a Japanese story, and I love that it's in Japanese. Really like the historical setting of Japan post-World War II. I think that's well done. I think, the story that it tells of Japan at that time is really moving. I love the dialogue about how the Japanese government treated death cheaply with their people, especially the kamikaze soldiers, which the main character is, and it makes it really sad. I think the monster looked amazing.
Everything
so thick.
Is
great.
So
He's
thick.
so
Godzilla's
thick.
thighs. Oh my god. Does not skip leg day.
He is who he needs to be. Short neck, tiny head, terrifying, crusty plates.
Yeah.
Oh.
So crusty. He looked so good. He's looked the best he's ever looked. Love it. Everything was great. Only thing I have to say about it was more so about the experience is that I just wish people would shut the fuck up in movie theaters. Yeah, we're reading subtitles, it's a foreign movie, but people were having like full volume conversations with each other. There wasn't many people in the theater, so, it only takes a couple people to like ruin it for you. And I'm like really tired of the theater etiquette in 2023. It's bad.
It just doesn't exist.
I think COVID's done it no favors. Rowan and I have talked about it numerous times on Now Slang, and it's just everyone's on their phones talking,
Mm-hmm.
Yeah, it's brutal.
I'm interested to go see it, but I am curious because it's going to depend on this whether or not I see it. Is Matthew Broderick in it? That's kind of my need in these Godzilla movies.
No.
Ah, damn it.
He says movies as if Matthew Broderick was ever in anything other than one in like 1997. And Ro just can't get over it. He can't get over it. Let it go.
Did you want to talk about it, Colton? Go ahead.
But yeah, I largely felt kind of the same as you, Jill. I thought it was pretty great overall. I do think it's a little bit hyperbolic. Like, I've seen people saying, like, nominate Godzilla -1 for Best Picture and nominated for Best Visual Effects and all this stuff. And it's like, okay, guys, like, let's just chill. Meryl Streep is not voting for Godzilla -1. I'm sorry to break it to you. Like, it's not happening.
She might.
I don't think so. I mean, I don't personally know Meryl Streep, but I can't see her sitting there
Oscars
watching
aren't
Godzilla
that cool.
-1. No, it's just not happening. But I do think it's pretty great overall. I will say, for me, it just feels a little bit samey, like to Shin Godzilla a couple years ago. I don't know if you've seen that one, Jill. That was 2016, which was another Japanese Godzilla movie.
Mm-mm.
And then just like 2 years before that was when there was the Gareth Edwards or Gareth Edmonds, whoever did it, the Godzilla like rebirth of Godzilla, which once again is just kind of like a Godzilla origin almost. So I've seen 3 Godzilla origins within the last 10 years, all of which are pretty different, 2 of which are actually Japanese and set around like World War II. So it was kind of like, okay, it's another one of these. I will say it's more focused on the characters this time. Like it definitely slows things down and actually develops like the main character and its like family unit around him and a couple of the secondary characters, which makes the fights against Godzilla a little bit more harrowing, or like you care a little bit more about who's involved. And it's also one of the few ones recently where like the star of the movie is not Godzilla. Like Godzilla's in the movie for 3 or 4 action sequences throughout, but it once again, it is more so about the characters, and this time the characters are actually good, which is my issue with a lot of these more modern Godzilla movies. Is like, I don't care about any humans in these movies. They all suck. They're all poorly written. It's all cringe. I just care about Godzilla fighting King Kong. Where at least in this one, I was like, hey, I care.
No one ever.
Yeah, I was like, I care about Shikishima, the what's called the pilot, I was like, I care about him and what's going on. So yeah, I don't know. I thought it was good. I enjoyed it overall. I will say my two friends I went with, one of them fell asleep and he was out for a good 10 minutes. And the other guy left for about 20 minutes to go get food. And he was like, man, I was only gone for a couple minutes. I was like, dude, you missed the longest fight of the entire movie. I'm the only one out of the three of us that actually watched this movie. So yeah, I thought it was pretty great overall. Mm-hmm. I don't think it's going to get nominated for Best Picture like some people on Twitter, but
That's good. Yeah. Let's see. I think that's it for movies, but besides I finished my time in Harry Potter prison, which I talked about last time.
Oh yeah.
The worst part of prison is the Dementors. That's an Office reference. The gruel sandwiches. Anyway,
just keep digging the hole.
All right,
that one landed.
I've already
great.
dug one. I'm gonna. It's my grave. Yeah. So for read.
That deserved it.
I don't think that picks up, but Rowan, you should just put in the blowhard.
Yeah, do it, please.
See, I have my soundboard turned way down because I game with people who are really obnoxious. So I barely heard that. But yeah, for books, I read Wretched by Emily McIntyre. It's a Wizard of Oz smut. It was checks out. It was okay. Moving on.
Wizard of Oz, just for a second, it's kind of coming back. It's been referenced in two different properties I've seen like within the last month. This Wonka movie may or may not be referencing Wizard of Oz, and also that video game Liza P also references Wizard of Oz.
Yeah.
Kind of strange that it's coming back, but anyways.
I agree. I also saw at TJ Maxx the other day a Wizard of Oz lounge fly, and I didn't buy it, and I keep thinking about it. I might have to go back, get that tiny backpack.
Yeah, but they're never going to have it. It's going to be gone, and you'll never see it again.
I know. But yeah, I also read If He Had Been With Me by Laura Nolan. It was really good. It's like a YA kind of book and made me cry like a little baby. 5 stars. And then today, I finished The Cruel Prince by Holly Black. Also incredible. I picked it up the other day at Barnes & Noble. I just talked to an employee and I was like, I'm in a reading slump. Help me. And she was like, read this one. And I'm eternally grateful to her. I got the collector's edition, which is so pretty. It's all black.
She upsold you. That's great. Well done.
I love it. I'm a sucker for aesthetic in my bookshelf. So yeah, it's got the little case. It's velvet and black, and I kind of collect special edition books that are pretty. Really cute illustrations on it. It's so pretty. And yeah, I highly recommend that if you are looking for a fairy fantasy that includes lots of traditional fairy lore. But yeah, that's all I got. So let's go back to you, Colton.
I'm all about that fairy lore. That's everything I've been reading as well. No, as per usual, I haven't read anything, Twitter, that's about it.
Fairy lore or fairy porn? Oof.
Okay, it's also a YA book, so no porn.
Okay,
but
that's good.
Yeah.
I feel like everyone else has just been watching what I've been watching. I also watched May December. Have either of you guys or any of you seen Carol by Todd Haynes?
How fucking dare you?
Okay.
How dare you?
Okay, well, I thought Carol was incredibly boring, so I was not going into this with very high expectations, but I've seen everyone obviously saying, oh, this is excellent, it's one of the best movies of the year. I saw Rowan saying it, I was like, all right, I'll check it out. And I will say overall, I did think it was quite good. I thought the performances by Natalie Portman, Julianne Moore, and especially Charles Melton really help elevate the script's kind of salacious material. And I think that specifically some developments and revelations in the third act really brought the whole thing home for me. I was really worried leading up to that third act about how they were going to land the plane. And thankfully, in my opinion, they definitely went in the correct direction when dealing with this subject matter. That being said, I really find the discourse around the movie where everyone kind of just calls it camp strange, especially with that third act. I don't know how it's camp in that third act. I would kind of like to know.
That's straight people taking over that word and misusing it.
Okay, all right. I'm glad to hear that, because I've heard everyone calling this movie high camp or a camp masterpiece, and I'm like,
I thought it was campy.
No.
I'm like, it has a weird score. Like, the score is offbeat. Julianne Moore's character has a lisp, which, sure, like,
it's wild.
It's a wild thing, but it's also like people in real life have lisps. You know, like,
but sometimes she has a lisp, sometimes she doesn't. Like,
no, she has a lisp throughout.
There's like definitely scenes where she doesn't have the lisp.
And then there's a single joke within the first 5 minutes of the movie about hot dogs, which obviously is it's a comedic beat. Like, it has the hard cut to, like, I don't know if we have enough hot dogs, cut to like a barbecue with 100 hot dogs on it, right? Like, it's obviously a joke, but everyone's like, this is a masterpiece in camp. So I was like, bro, I'm going to hate this movie. Like, you know, because we've had this discussion on the show numerous times about how I just don't get camp. Thankfully, I didn't think it was campy. And whether or not you think it's campy, I enjoyed it. So, you know, hopefully you did as well. The other movie, which may or may not be campy as well that I saw, I'm not sure, is Wonka, the new Wonka movie by Paul King, who did Paddington 1 and 2. And man, am I disappointed that he gave up doing Paddington 3 to do Wonka. Because Wonka, in my opinion, is garbage. Like, I did not like it at all. I don't understand how all the critics are giving this positive reviews. So many of my mutuals on Letterboxd are giving it like a 3.5. For me, I found this almost torture. Like, it's a musical, which not a lot of people know going in, but it literally starts off with like Timothy Chalamet auto-tune singing on a boat, like coming into the harbor, almost like Sweeney Todd or something. And I was instantly like, bro, what am I watching? And it's just like Timothy Chalamet in this is so woefully miscast that it's insane. Like, he's not at all like Gene Wilder. He doesn't have that like edge to him or that menace. He's just like boring. Like, I'm sorry. I really like Timothy Chalamet in most things I've seen him in. And this, he's just so dull. And the character is played so straight or so like just zany. That's like off-puttingly zany. That, like, it just doesn't work. The whole movie to me is like so mishandled. I didn't find it endearing. I didn't find it like family fun. And even kind of like the emotional beats that like they're kind of really tugging on your heartstrings, especially like with like familial issues or found family, that sort of thing. It's just like, for me, I was like, okay, I hear the score swelling up. I hear Timothy Chalamet. I see him welling up with tears. I'm supposed to feel it as well. But I was just like, I don't know. I was so cynical and checked out by the end of this thing. I did not enjoy it at all. So yeah, I would not recommend Wonka. And crazily enough, it seems like it's also doing well at the box office, which once again, I'm just like, I'm completely like flabbergasted with this movie. I thought it was so awful. And then the one thing I saw that wasn't, it definitely wasn't awful, was Anatomy of a Fall. It's like an Oscar movie. Everyone's talking about it. It's one of the best films of the year. And I agree. I thought it was excellent. It's a French murder mystery / courtroom drama, led by a brilliant performance by Sandra Hüller, who's been in like a couple of other movies this year. Zone of Interest is like the other big one that she's in. And also her son in the movie, Milo, gotta look at his name, Milo Machado Grainer. I don't know. He's excellent in the movie as well. It winds up kind of, for a lot of the movie, being like a two-hander, kind of like a he said, she said situation. And I just thought they were really good. Like, both of them like really sold the movie. And the best part about it is probably the script. Like, any good murder mystery, it keeps you on your toes, and it just slowly and methodically kind of peels back the curtain and kind of reveals key pieces of information throughout. But it doesn't feel like it's cheating doing so. It feels like, defense bringing different revelations to the table to kind of like help you reshape and reframe what you've seen. And I just thought it was excellent. I know a lot of people in particular have some issues with some of the twists or some of the turns or how like dour the movie gets at times, but I don't know. I had no issues with it. I really enjoyed it, and the ending, everything. I thought it all worked. I thoroughly enjoyed it. Some people, like, once again, they're really turned off by it, but I think it's excellent. So another French movie that we should all check out, Anatomy of a Fall, after we've all checked out, this wonderful pick for this evening, Deadly Games. So
sick segue.
Yes.
And I mean, I think I should really give it over to you, because I'm gonna brutalize every name that this is called. Deadly Games, Game Over, some French
Dial
name.
Code Santa Claus, like, what was it? 3618,
Yeah.
Code Père Noël or something. Yeah. It's like so many of them, yeah.
But, and I mean, we shouldn't really have to explain ourselves why we chose this. I mean, it's the freaking Christmas season. So, of course, we're going to have a Christmas pick. And I think we just kind of decided we can't like Silent Night, Deadly Night you again this quickly. So,
no, you're just going to keep leprechauning everybody.
Yeah, that's right.
I was going to say, wasn't it Magic? Wasn't Magic the Christmas pick
Magic.
last year?
There wasn't any other really good ventriloquist movies to pick. So,
Dead Silence.
Oh, Dead Silence, maybe.
Yeah.
But, yeah, so let's get into it. 1989's Deadly Games. We'll get into the trailer, and we'll be back with the synopsis and first experiences.
Code Père Noël, le film.
Deadly Games was written and directed by Renee Manzoor, and the story is as follows. After being left by his capitalist pig of a mother on Christmas Eve, Thomas, a resourceful kid with a love of technology and 80s action movies, develops a foolproof plan to capture video evidence of the existence of Santa Claus. But when the fat man in the red suit turns out to be a ruthless killer, Thomas must put on his war paint and brandish his Nerf gun to defend himself and his frail grandfather, lest he wind up on the naughty list.
Where'd you get that?
I wrote it myself!
Did you actually?
Yeah. Yeah.
Capitalist pig of a mother, you killed us.
It's so true. She's so awful in this movie.
She's not that awful. I've seen worse.
Oh my God. We'll discuss.
Compose yourself, Rowan. Compose yourself. So we're going to start with our first experience. Is this our first time watching it? Or are we, we're just with it when it comes to French cinema. We don't think French is stupid. So, we appreciate the cinema they give us. But Jill, we'll start with you.
Yeah, so this is my first experience. This movie was not on my radar, never heard of it, never seen it, but I am excited for it. I watched Home Alone the other day, so I'm like prepared basically. I love French movies. You guys might not know this about me, but I have a French degree. And I used to watch a lot of French films, super pretentious, and I haven't watched a French film in a long time. So I was really excited for this. And yeah. What about you, Colton?
Yeah, no, I've seen this before. Not a lot. I think I saw it 1 or 2 other times. First time I checked it was a couple of years ago, and then I picked up the 4K after checking it out. But yeah, it's I was looking for a movie for us to pick, the fit, and I was kind of trying to find an excuse for us to eventually discuss this on the podcast, and it just kind of worked out in my favor this year that we were looking for something, and this is it. So yeah, it's probably my second or third time seeing it. What about you, Rowan?
It was on my radar. I can't say I had it picked out, to watch anytime soon, but lots of podcasts I listened to have mentioned it or had done episodes that I kind of skipped on it. So I was aware it was in existence. It seemed like it would be up my alley just because I usually like stuff that's pretty wild like this. I don't hate French people, guys. I knew Jill.
Don't listen to him.
I knew Jill loved
He's apologizing
French
already.
So,
love croissants.
Yeah, you love croissants? Is that?
Yeah. I have 2 ex-boyfriends who are French.
I like that your love of French people is I had 2 ex-boyfriends and I like croissants. So,
oui.
Cultured.
But yeah, no, I was aware, but had never seen this. So this was the first time. Thank you, Shudder, for having this. Because I think we'll find out later that this was, if you don't have Shudder, this may have been a difficult movie to find. Mike, how about you?
Oh yeah, no, I had never heard of it before. I'd seen another movie called Deadly Games, which I guess, as you said, is one of the 8 titles that this thing is known by. So I had never heard of it, and when Colton brought it to our attention, I was like, oh, this actually sounds really interesting. So I was excited to watch it, and knowing that it was kind of the proto Home Alone, that was interesting, because, that was one of my favorite movies when I was a youngster. So yeah, no, this was a big surprise. I'd never seen it, didn't know anything about it, so I was happy to watch it for this podcast episode.
Well, you know where we're going to start. Let's get into the capitalism and pigs of it, I guess. As Colton says, the capitalist pigs of it all.
Oh, my God.
We'll start with our favorite scene and or favorite kill. Colton, we're going to start with you. You seem to have an affection for this film.
Yeah, where do I want to start with this? The one thing I wrote down was the breaking into the car scene, which I don't know if that's a hot scene to pick or not, but essentially when I was watching it this time, I think I kind of misremembered like how long like the Santa was around and being menacing and like how much of the movie that dominated. So I was kind of waiting for like, okay, when does this weird, creepy Santa Claus get to the house and, like, you know, things start escalating? And specifically the car scene was kind of like, okay, we're firmly, like, now into the roots of, like, a horror movie now, right? Like, you got Santa headbutting the windshield. You have whoever the composer is just going absolutely crazy on the synth and the drums to, like, I don't know, it doesn't really make much sense, but it's just, like, he's freaking out. It just creates, like, tension and anxiety in the moment. You have, like, Thomas and Grandpa just trying to figure out how to get out of the situation, rolling up the windows, you know, locking the doors, trying to run them over, distract them, all these, you know, different little beats of the scene that I just really liked how it all escalated and then kind of culminates into them, you know, slinking off into like this secret underground, you know, toy room that's been passed down throughout the family for a millennia, you know, just, I don't know, it's just like, yeah, that was a good little sequence there. That was my favorite part. What about you, Jill?
For me, the opening scene was pretty hard to beat.
Oh, really? The snowball fight?
Okay, not the snowball fight. Like right after that, when the Thomas is waking up.
Okay.
Sorry,
I thought you were like, I love it when creepy old men interact with children and have snowball fights.
No.
Okay.
The snowball scene does make me feel weird, though, because I kind of felt bad for this guy, and then he turns out to be really slimy, so, you know.
I like that the kids in that scene called themselves a gang. They're like, he's not part of our gang.
Oh, yeah, you're right. Yeah, that is... Yeah, that's good stuff.
Yeah. Like, I ain't never seen you in my hood.
He's not one of us. But yeah, opening scene was so good. I was sitting there and I was like, there's no way in hell this is real. Like, this kid has everything. He's doing all this crazy shit. He's got a mullet. He's got like some kind of Nerf gun, but that looks like a real gun, and like Nerf bullets like strapped to his vest. And I was like, this seems very American for a French film. But yeah, the music, him working out, getting all sweaty, it's so funny. And I was like, how could this possibly be a horror movie? It was just so funny. But yeah, that's my favorite part. What was your favorite part, Mike?
Honestly, it was probably the first chase scene after he breaks into the house. Because in the scene that you liked, when it's like kind of following him on his like crazy, like path through the house and like kind of setting up all of the shit that he's gonna come back to. Yeah, exactly. You get a sense of like the house being big and like kind of, labyrinthine and stuff, but like it's totally different, I found, when he's running through the house at night and like it's got the really cool lighting and stuff like that. And it reminded me so much of like a Resident Evil like palace. And I was like, oh my god, I didn't realize how crazy it is with all these like passages and stuff. So I don't know, I just really like that part. I love a good chase scene, and I thought that was a well done one. So
you're so right with the Resident Evil pull though, like with all the the hidden passageways, the armor, like it's very very Resident Evil 4 actually.
There was so much about it. I was like, man, if you took this and put a Resident Evil game in it, it would be so fucking good. I think that's why I liked it, because it kind of like, it gave you that like really creepy vibe, like the really cool camera work and the great lighting and stuff. And so that was my favorite part. I loved all of it, but that part like kind of, really tickled me. Ro, what tickled you?
All right, so
what pinched you? What stabbed you?
Calm yourself, Jill. Calm yourself. I have reasonings. I have reasonings behind it.
Okay.
And it's not my normal trolling, but where Santa kills the dog.
Oh my fucking god. I knew we were going to talk about this.
But listen, it's
You're
not
so twisted, Rowan. What's wrong
It's not
with you?
because he necessarily. Well, I guess it is kind of he kills the dog, but it's not like because of those reasons. It's not my hatred of dogs that's pushing this. It's because kind of like Colton's with the car scene. To me, that's when the movie like takes the twist. Because I was really, I could see where it was going, but I was kind of like, oh, is this going to be more of like action Home Alone style movie than a horror movie? Like, I wasn't sure what direction we were gonna go with this, and this is where I'm like, okay, like this guy's like actually like here to like kill people and do whatever. And I just thought like it was also pretty like harrowing and terrifying for the kid. Like I think, as I'm sure we're going to talk about, like, I thought most of the stuff in this is, like, it's shot in a way that makes it even scarier, that makes it, like, so, like, fantasy and dreamlike that you don't really know what's going on half the time.
Yeah, the way that sequence is, like, filmed where it's very soft focus, very light, and you see Santa coming down the chimney and you hear the music playing, like the subversion of him like killing JR. It's so good in that moment. Like, it is very harrowing. Weirdly enough, that Terrifier 3 trailer just kind of did the exact same thing. I never went back and watched it, but it kind of does the same thing. The kid coming down the stairs, soft focus, the light, and it winds up being like Art the Clown killed Santa underneath the tree or whatever. But when I was watching this, I was like, oh, I wonder if they were inspired from this little moment, because obviously this movie now is kind of developing, like becoming kind of like a cult classic of like a holiday horror movie. But yeah, that moment to me is really well done as well. Also, JR, John Rambo, maybe? You think that's where the dog got his name from?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's kind of what I was thinking.
Absolutely.
Yeah, that's what I was
this
thinking.
This kid is obsessed.
Yeah, exactly. Okay, just making sure.
And also, that's the scene where, I mean, obviously it's no secret. I love slasher movies. I love giallo movies, but what a great weapon, the like pie knife
oh my god
thing. Like, I was like, this is awesome. Knife, yeah. I don't think
it's very Thanksgiving.
Yeah, well, I was like, I don't think I've ever seen this as like, this is a weapon that I'm going to use throughout the movie. It's just this,
he just holds on to it too. He like keeps it the entire thing. Yeah,
fantastic. So yeah, that's my favorite scene. Hands down. And like I said, not just because I'm a troll of Jill. So no,
I get it. I knew you were gonna pick that one too, but just going back to like the Art the Clown Terrifier thing, I think the villain is also like, not in the same vein as Art the Clown, but it did remind me a bit of it because he's just an asshole.
Yeah, he's an asshole. He's really menacing. I just find him creepy, I guess, is how I find the entire movie. Like he's just like, he barely speaks the entire movie. He just has like a face that, like, when you get that nighttime lighting and the harsh shadows and like his eyes, like he just gets very creepy looking.
He does have a weird face.
Yeah, it's just like a really good face for like a weird, scary mall cop Santa, essentially. Like, I love earlier in the movie too, where he has like very clearly like he stole the other guy's costume or whatever, right? Like, and he's wearing it. It's like all ill-fitting. And what is it? The one little girl is like, oh God, what did she say? I don't like your face. You're not the real Santa.
And she pulls on his beard.
And then he just smacks her, like hits her.
Yeah.
Like, oh yeah, some casual child abuse in this movie. Yeah, let's go. Like,
that was crazy to me because I was like, is this his motive for, coming to this lady's house because she fired him for, beating on a little girl? Like, that's his motive? It's not a good motive. So that's like the thing that I was like, okay, this reminds me of Terrifier.
Yeah, that's the thing too. It's like, I don't even really know if this is kind of like a character that you can wind up saying like there is actually a motive. Like, obviously he gets some direction of where she lives and figures it out. And then obviously he's conversing with Thomas on, God, what is the name of those things? The
weird internet,
something net,
I forget what it's called. The Minitel or something, I think.
Yeah.
So like, obviously you get some direction of like where Thomas lives, but it's just like, this is a weird character where like I actually don't even know if it's like a human character or if it's literally supposed to be like this weird alien, or what is this guy supposed to be? Like, I have no idea, because in the movie, like, there's a couple of different conversations obviously between Thomas and his grandfather, and they're talking about like, what is Santa Claus? Is he, does he exist? Is Is he, just some creation? Is he an alien? And they're trying to figure this all out. And when they kind of say the idea of alien, I'm like, this guy's whole presence in this movie is a little bit alien. He's just strange.
Yeah.
Like he comes out of nowhere. He doesn't really know about the social norms about interacting with children. He just casually steals this Santa suit or kills the guy and takes the Santa suit off screen. He doesn't actually formally ever get employed or lose the job in terms of we're taking away the suit and all that. He just keeps progressing, right? It just seems like he's very much out of his element. It's just such an odd character that I think adds to it being a little bit unnerving the entire movie.
Point. Because also, I like the ogre comment where the mom's like, if you see him, he's going to turn into an ogre. Yeah. And then it happens basically. And
it's such a, I mean, we're skipping right to the end, but it's such a dour beat because Thomas literally blames himself for it all happening in the end. Yeah. He's like, it's my fault, Mama. I wanted to see Santa Claus. I'm the one who turned him into an ogre. I'm the one that did this. She's like, a poor kid's going to need counseling for years after this.
Oh, 100%.
Every year around Christmas time, he's going to be traumatized.
Yeah.
This is basically just a prequel movie to The Killer from Silent Night, Deadly Night. This is the kind of trauma you have to then go on to become a Santa Claus killer.
Yeah, you become the one thing you never wanted to become. Yeah.
I like how, I can't believe no one said, let's bring it back to the beginning because Jill understated the fact that my first note in capital letters and exclamation mark is these kids' fucking hair. I feel like you undersold it. The whole intro is the celebration of the mullet. It's just an advertisement of the mullet.
Can we also just take a moment to say this kid has the coolest bunk bed ever as well. He's literally in a plane. It's crazy. I don't know if any of you guys had a bunk bed, but I had a bunk bed until I don't know, probably grade 4, and that thing was sick. It was one of those ones where you climb down out of it, obviously, but it had a desk and stuff all under.
Yeah, that was my dream, Colton.
Me too.
That was in the Sears catalog, wasn't it?
Yeah, guaranteed from the Sears
every year.
Yeah.
I used to circle it on my wish list. Okay, a little bit of Christmas trauma here. I used to circle it on my wish list in that wish book every year. Never got it.
My wish was granted.
I'm so envious.
I'm not gonna lie, I'd still probably want one now. The queen size version of that.
Can you get a king sized bunk bed?
You gotta be able to. Someone makes adult bunk beds.
Yeah,
or something.
That's wild just for late night activities having a bunk bed nowadays, but it's still can you get one if you want one?
I was poor and old school. We used to have an old metal bunk bed, and we lived in a basement with a cement floor, and I used to always fall out and just land on the cement floor.
How are you alive?
I don't know. There's probably brain damage there.
It actually explains a lot.
Yeah, thanks. Feel so special for the holidays. Kevin McCallister, eat your fucking heart out. This kid is so badass. Like you said, Jill, that whole intro of the makeup applying, the real just the Rambo scene is possibly the most epic way to start a movie.
It's so cool, just capturing the dog, with the pitfall trap, the war paint, the firing the Nerf gun, the way he speaks to his grandpa right at the beginning. I forget what he says.
That is my favorite. He's like, oh, I got this prisoner who's half blind and diabetic.
Yeah.
And he brings his grandfather in cuffs.
Yeah, it's so good.
And the grandfather just goes along with it. He's like,
I thought he was going to be such a little asshole.
Okay, cool. Yeah.
Because of that. And then I'm like, oh, he loves him. Okay.
Also, one note, the war sounds in the movie are actually diegetic. They're in the actual movie. So this kid just sleeps with sounds of war every night. It's so hardcore. He goes down and turns it off at the end of the scene. I was like, bro, that's hardcore.
Yeah, he's super funny. I love the grandfather, and I love that part. Just bring it back to the alien thing when he's like, do you believe in aliens? And that's his reasoning and logic to get him to still believe in Santa.
Yeah.
I love that dialogue.
I as he's trying to process if Santa's real, he questions if cavemen and Napoleon are real, like Santa Claus.
I was questioning if Napoleon was real within the last month after seeing that movie too. I mean, I completely understand.
Very relevant, yeah.
Yeah, I enjoyed that. Let's just question all these things. You're like, are they as real as Santa though? And maybe not.
I feel like they probably wanted to like question God or something, like in a little, off,
that'd be so French,
quick way. But I think they were like, we don't want to offend too many people. Let's just talk about cavemen and Napoleon.
I've got to talk about, we talked about like his crazy bed and stuff, but the layout of this house is
amazing.
It's something. It's epic. It's like you go in the fridges and their doors, and like you go into this weird toy graveyard bridge room.
It looks like something from like the Rudolph the Red-Nosed Reindeer movie, like the Island of Misfit Toys or something, just like mountains of discarded toys. And the fact there's like this lore to it that it's like, it was a special hidden place for me and my dad and his dad before him and his dad before that. I was just like, bro, there doesn't have to be all this lore to the,
because his mom don't know
room.
About it.
Exactly. Boys rule,
Yeah.
Yeah, girls do drool, so that's just
poor single mom.
God. The capitalist pig, you mean, of course, right?
Can we talk about his friend?
She can be a capitalist pig and still a poor single mom.
Can we talk about his friend? Is it Pilu?
Well, hold on a sec.
Rowan was going somewhere. He was cooking.
I was cooking with this house. So this is where I kind of had my first question of the movie is because this layout of this house is like super wild. Do you think that it's actually the house layout, or is it like, because this whole film is shot very like fantasy dream, like the whole movie, even with the horror, like we're in this kid's mind the entire time, where I was like, maybe like what we're being presented as rooms like aren't necessarily those that don't look like that in real life. Like this is like the kid's imagination.
Yeah. That's a good point.
So the one thing with that I'll push back slightly is I do believe like obviously the tone of the movie is very like childlike and wondrous and then also horror, which is mixing and kind of clashing with one another. But the mom does say at one point that it's like you have so many secret tunnels, you got the house all cut up with all these holes like it's Swiss cheese or something. So she is implying that there is a bunch of weird tunnels and passageways throughout the movie. Now, whether or not that toy room is literally like an underground swimming pool, like absolutely massive, I could probably say like, you're probably right. It's probably smaller than what the kid thinks. But I do think it is a weird like old house that they probably just made alterations, for this, this very inventive, imaginative kid who's like very clearly very smart too, with all of his computer hacking skills and whatever else he does in this movie.
Fixes a car. Kind of.
Yeah, fixes the car. He's the man of the house. Fixes the car. Goes for a
drive
drive in
the
it.
car.
I know. It's like, bro.
I was dying at
the
this
grandpa
guy.
was like, now this time make sure not to slalom between the trees. I was like, bro, drifting between the trees.
The grandpa can't even see.
Yeah. So cool. The coolest kid. I think it's a good question though, Rowan. Like whether or not it's real or not. It's just I do think there is like a rationale in the movie that for most of it, I think you can take it kind of straightforward.
There's one scene in particular, before I go back to what I was going to say, there's one scene in particular in that opening scene where he's like doing his like little routine. He goes out on the window ledge and it looks very dream-like. It looks not real, to the point where I was like, oh, this is a dream, or this isn't a video game, or this is a simulation.
And with that, I'll say, I think a lot of the exteriors of the house, they had to use miniature work, right? Like, it's super obvious. So it kind of, it looks so low budget.
I kept waiting for them to show that the house was, like, part of a little set somewhere.
A diorama or something,
Mm-hmm.
Like, it kind of adds to that whole reading of the movie, though. Like, you don't really know like what's real. It feels very surreal and dreamlike and childlike for a lot of it. But I think it is just like a budgetary constraint where it's like, yo, we don't have a castle to shoot at. So like whenever we pull out, we're going to have to frame it in such a way where Thomas can go around a corner. We can cut to like this very obvious miniature. There's even one scene in the movie where he's kind of like hanging off the roof.
Yeah.
You guys notice that, where all of a sudden it's just like he turns into just a shadow. It's like they pull out and like Thomas is just a really weird shadow across the green screen or something, like dangling off the roof.
I thought it kind of looked like stop motion.
Yeah, it could even be stop motion, but it was just like, it was a very obvious effect. I was like, oh, that's cute, trying to like They're trying to blend it.
I think it would actually be less of a movie without that. Like, I thought it without like the miniature work and what could or could not be stop motion. Like, I thought it added to the movie.
Okay.
Like, I was like, it's kind of cool. Like, it's giving me like these like 80s, 90s fantasy kid vibes. Like, this is stuff you would see in like adult fantasy movies in the 80s, like low budget. Jesus, I was just talking about watching He-Man from the 80s. Like, this is stuff you'd see in that, and I think it adds to the charm of the movie.
There's even silly stuff like near the end of the movie where Santa, I think it's like after he's been shot and he's kind of coming back into the house, when he's walking through the snow, it's very obvious, like just big like plumes of cotton like rolling across the ground. And then sometimes it's actual like snow, where like, the fake snow. And then sometimes just the diorama covered in snow. But I was just like, it literally looks like mountains of cotton candy like outside on the front lawn right now. Like, it's not even the fake snow stuff. It's literally just like a ripped up pillow or something, that Santa's walking
stuffing
through.
From
There's like, no one will ever see this in 4K. They'll never notice that.
All right, go ahead, Jill. Sorry, we're bad people.
No, I don't know if I want to talk about. I don't know if I have enough to say about it. It's fine,
about
unless you guys do.
But now we're all on the edge of our seat, though.
Oh, I don't.
You're talking about that friend,
Pilu.
Yeah, his friend was really funny. I don't know.
Wow,
I like their interaction. See, I told you I don't have anything for it.
Now, refresh my memory. Does he actually die in this movie? I know he's on the bike. He's riding away. He falls over.
I think.
I was wondering what happened to him.
I think he gets away. I think.
Yeah, it doesn't show him die, right?
No,
it doesn't show him like ever again after, does it?
No.
Yeah. So.
But I think he falls, and I think I'm trying to remember. I literally just watched this yesterday.
I think that's what happens. I think they're just pursuing it.
I think he falls over, but I think he gets up, and I think he just goes away.
He just goes back home. He's
Similarly,
like, nope.
I think the Santa guy like gets distracted by something and then goes in another direction.
Oh, okay. Similarly, with the mother going off the road, it seems very much like the movie's trying to cut it like that it's some sort of animal or something that ran across. But do we ever see the animal or what made her go off the road?
No.
I was expecting like a reindeer or something, like. But no revelation there.
To me, that was like the clunkiest part, because like also her assistant /
lover.
Jesus, I guess fair play also influenced by Deadly Games. Like he's there to like get her off the road. He's like, she's off the road. He's like, oh, we'll take my car or whatever. But like, they don't have phone. Like,
She got a phone.
Yeah, but he was gone. He had already left the office. He was literally right there when she was off the road.
Maybe he was coming over for a late night booty call.
Yeah, but he got the little print off.
He was but I'm just saying when he arrived like he already knew she was off the road, and he was like, "I'm here to like get you. Let's go to the house." Where I was like, there would be no way for these guys to contact each other. He's making assistant money.
Maybe he saw the tracks going off the road.
Oh, maybe.
And he knew it was her, because nobody else would be driving out in that like country road.
Was there any part of any of you guys that thought, like, I thought for sure, I was like, oh, this guy's definitely stealing all the money. I was like, when he kept being like, because like he was like, oh, I'll stay late and do all the, because she was like, we got to get the money into the truck and sent out, because she's like, there's millions from tonight, which I'd like to own this store that just made millions of dollars.
This is a crazy department store.
Yeah.
By the way, I looked it up and it's actually a real store.
Oh, is that
really?
Yeah.
Oh, wow.
Yeah.
And they make millions on Christmas Eve.
She's like, that's why I've got to stay late. We've got to do the accounting. And he kept being like, no, you go home. I'll do it. And I'll get all the money together and send it. And I just, at that point, I was like, oh, this guy's like scamming the company.
He's embezzling, yeah.
And it's going to be like, he's the lover, but also he's only the lover because he's scamming. Luckily, he was a nice guy, so.
I would say that's probably there. Yeah, subtextual, like, he could be scamming. Maybe Roland isn't such a nice guy.
The department store. I think all of us have done our fair share of retail-esque work. Do we want to have a discussion on how fun it possibly could be to work for this woman? Christmas Eve. The store is open till 10 p.m. on Christmas Eve. I was like, if I was an employee, this may have been a different kind of horror movie. It may have been a horror movie where employees murder their boss.
Yeah. Also,
especially in France. Like, they close up real early over there. Sorry, go ahead.
Yeah, no, I was gonna say also coming into the boardroom on Christmas Eve, like giving serious like I'm a girl boss, obviously, was like the energy. But also she was just had all these like grandiose plans just because Thomas didn't believe in Santa anymore. And they're all like, we can't accomplish any of this. What are you talking about? Like, imagine being those minimum wage workers coming in day of and being like, okay, you know, it's no longer just like the displays in the front of the store. Now we have Santa outside on this corner. We got jugglers over here. We got people breathing fire. You're just like, bro, what is my life? Like, you know, just so complicated for like drive people into a department store on Christmas Eve.
It was kind of weird.
You probably shouldn't hire all your Christmas staff Christmas Eve also. She's like, we need to hire people right now for tonight. And you got to train them. They got to go through HR. They got to get all their banking info into them, all that good stuff.
They're getting paid under the table 100%.
Oh, yeah. They're making like 30 cents an hour or something.
Or they're just getting fired by the end of the day for slapping a kid, you know? So
yeah,
and touching her face like creep.
So creepy.
I was scared of what was going to happen.
Okay, so that brings me to one of my questions that I had. And I'm like, is he, like, I just was watching the movie and I assumed he was just supposed to be a, like, murderous pedophile. Like, did anybody else get that vibe? Because I really got that vibe from him.
I got the vibe then, but then I was like, maybe, I don't know.
I mean, they didn't really, like, explore it much after, but I'm like, why is he fixated on this kid? And he, like, finds him on, like, a fucking internet chat room. It just screamed late 80s version of Internet Predator. You know?
See, Stranger danger. I kind of just assumed that like there was some sort of trauma. I thought he did a pretty good job, like whoever the actor was that played the Santa, because I got the reading from it that I was just kind of like, he does seem crazy, but he also like seems to me throughout the film like very childlike.
He wants to play games. He's messing around with. Well, that's bad verbiage when we're talking about.
Yeah, because even when
he
catches the kid, he doesn't kill him or anything. He's like, all right, now I'm going to go hide. Like, you count. Yeah. So to me, I was like, okay, this guy's literally just like mentally stunted as a kid, you know. But
yeah, I mean, that could also work to like Mike's rationale and explanation as well, though, like believing that he's not as old or like not out of that frame of mind where it's not inappropriate to pursue a kid or something like that, right? Like, I don't explicitly get like literally like one-to-one this Santa Claus is a pedophile, but I certainly get this guy is creepy and what he's doing is inappropriate. So like crossing or going one step further is like I could totally see that. I guess I just would have needed him to be a little bit like grosser, specifically with like Thomas. I think like there is the one scene I guess where he like puts him in the headlock or whatever, you know, but it's like he doesn't like kiss him on the cheek or something like that, you know, or you know, it doesn't ever. I was gonna say it never goes too far, which I mean they literally like basically kill each other. But I mean, you know, I just didn't get that vibe. Yeah, I never got the vibe. I guess explicitly. Like, for me, it was just very much like this Santa guy just seemed... I didn't know if he was just, like, a homeless man. I didn't know if he was just incredibly weird and antisocial. I didn't know if he was literally an alien. I didn't know if he's a weird murderer that escaped from a mental institute or something like that. It's just, like, I had no idea, right? Like, there's no backstory given, thankfully, because... I just think any explanation would probably ruin it or take something away from it.
Well, and we continuously talk about, like, you know, and that's why I really liked it, was like, you don't need your villain, like, over-explained. Like, he's a villain, whatever. We'll imagine as we talk about it what the possibilities of what he is, why he does it, and that makes it so much more fun. That's why everyone should do that. You know, it is the holiday season. I noticed none of you guys in the background have any of your decorations of clowns, jugglers, fire breathers up, which is really odd because when I get ready for Christmas, I always go with the circus theme.
But I do have a clown. It's your face.
Got him.
Mike stole my joke. I was going to say basically the same thing.
Sorry.
Which brought me to my second thought of this movie. I was like, was Batman Returns inspired by Deadly Games? as Gotham's holiday parties involve fire breathers, jugglers, and clowns. These are the only 2 movies I know that that's a thing. I've never seen that portrayed in anything else. I'm sure it probably is, but I never associated any of those things with the holidays. So
I don't know where they settle on those creative decisions, because I've been to like my fair few Santa Claus parades throughout the years, and I don't remember fire breathers being there.
I'm not saying they shouldn't be there. That's pretty badass, but I could kind of see it, because I could really see, a young Tim Burton, I was like, would definitely be into something like this. Like a young filmmaking Tim Burton. I was like, this would be his kind of film.
Like, does the timing even line up on that? I mean, like, obviously, like, all the harsh blue lighting and whatnot in this movie, too, is very, like, Burton-esque as well.
Yeah, and I mean, Returns would have been 93.
Okay.
So it would have been a couple years after this. So, maybe.
Who knows? Maybe Tim Burton does run in, like, French weird indie horror circles. Who knows? Because, I mean, like, to watch this movie, like, in the early 90s would just be insane. Because, like, once again, I don't think this was a very well-watched, like, not too many people saw this thing.
Which was funny, because Home Alone came out, like, what year did Home Alone come out?
I think it was a year later or something.
Yeah.
Like,
yeah.
And it's basically the same premise.
So, and that's the thing, like, the director literally came out and said that Home Alone stole their movie, and that he threatened legal action against the filmmakers of Home Alone, and basically said that they plagiarized this movie.
No way.
Yeah.
And nothing came of it?
No. I mean, you're not going to beat Home Alone. Like,
I know you're not, but like...
And also, in terms of, like, plagiarism and whatnot, like, obviously Home Alone winds up being a very different movie, but there is there's a similar energy of, like, the kid fighting back against the adults on Christmas, left home alone sort of idea, right? It's just, of course, in Home Alone, it's not actually a murderous Santa, right? It's just
you're not alone. You got your diabetic blind grandfather.
And you had JR for a little bit, too. Yeah.
JR getting stabbed with a cake knife serving thing, and then...
But yeah, I wouldn't be surprised if Home Alone kind of stole a little bit of this movie's thunder, though. Like, once again, like, I was too young. I wasn't even born at this point, like, to know if there was any discourse or if anybody knew about this movie. But very clearly, the filmmaker feels like he was slighted. That Home Alone filmmakers, somebody stole this idea.
I get it.
Yeah, it's there. Like, the argument is firmly cemented there, I think.
All the goofiness and, like, using the kids stuff, like, to combat it as well is, like, what very much feels Home Alone to me.
Yeah.
Like, I haven't seen Home Alone in quite a while now, but it's just, like, the third act of this movie where it gets, like, explicitly, like, using pencils and trains and walkie-talkies and all this shit, like, to get the pull the wool over kind of like this adult Santa's eyes. Like, it feels very Home Alone-esque to me.
Yeah, and also the fact that it's set, like, I think in Paris, and then in the original Home Alone, the family goes to Paris.
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
So, I'm just saying.
Maybe that was like a, fuck you to him. Like, we're gonna go to Paris.
Literally, it was
now.
that explicit, yeah.
I'm surprised no one has brought up about how the mom, like, knows a super intricate hip handshake in the movie. Apparently.
Ooh, maybe I missed that. Where was this?
Yeah, like, towards the beginning, she has a handshake with the son that is literally like I'm watching, like, a basketball game, and how they have, like, 5-minute handshakes for each other. And it's, like,
remember this.
Super intricate, yeah, and it was fantastic. And I was just like, this is bonding. This is bonding when you're like, you know what?
Wait, is this not a terrible mother? I had my guns out for this.
She
mom,
does learn this intricate, like, 1 to 2 minute handshake.
All this mom does the entire movie is drive her car home. That's all she does. I think the movie even ends before she gets home, doesn't it? Or like
no,
ends
she comes home.
Right at the very end, she gets home.
She gets home, does she? Oh yeah, and sees Thomas traumatized. Yeah, okay,
yeah.
I forgot about that.
And then it ends.
I loved that she was like at breakfast dressed like a fucking matador. I was like, okay, bitch, this is like Givenchy at like breakfast. Like, okay. And yeah, your son has a mullet, so, you know, whatever.
He's feral.
I thought it was kind of interesting because, you know, we made the joke about the mom being a capitalist pig and all that, but like, you know, I thought they did a pretty okay job of, even though it'd be really easy to kind of like not like the mom, and like obviously the mom's a workaholic and that stuff, like, but they built the relationship pretty good that you were like, oh, these guys are like pretty tight. Like, and for a super rich kid, I like, in most of these scenarios, like you're watching these movies and I'm like, fuck this kid. Like,
yeah.
Where this one, like, you were like, oh, like these guys like seem pretty like down to earth, pretty cool, other than they make all their like, minimum wage workers stay till 10 o'clock. Other than that. But like, yeah, I just found it, they did a very good job of like threading the line there of you know, not like making the, even though they're super rich, not making it so you like hate these people and you're like, yeah, kill these people, Santa, just kill them. Well, I might have been like that a little bit, but
yeah, when I was watching it as well, I thought the relationship specifically between Thomas and his grandpa is like a very strong relationship in the movie. And also, like, as I was watching, I was like, oh, I forgot like how rich these people were. Like, it's been a few years, like I said, since I've seen it. I was like, oh, these are like rich, like ancestral wealth rich. Like,
the grandpa was giving me reverse Charlie and the Chocolate Factory grandpa vibe.
Oh my god, I thought the same thing. He is Grandpa Joe.
That's 100% what I kept thinking about.
Because he's like, just like, you know, going along with him. He's like just happy, even though there's a murderer coming after
There's a
him.
murderer. He's like basically dying.
Yeah.
He's like, yeah, just hide me in this armor. I'll be fine.
I don't know how many of us remember Troll 2, but he was giving me Grandpa Seth vibes, where I'm like, God. Grandpa Seth is a badass. Like, literally, Grandpa in this movie, he's like, just hide, Grandpa, and he gets in a suit of armor, and he's just dying from, like, his diabetes. He's, like, in this armor in a diabetic coma, and then still, at the end of the movie, he can't see, he's blind, and he pulls a gun and shoots him dead. Like, yes, Grandpa, get it! It's not quite as good as Troll 2 when Grandpa Seth comes back from hell with a Molotov, but, you know, it's pretty great.
You might be the only one that's seen Troll 2. I'm not sure.
I didn't think either of you guys watched it. If people go back and listen to that episode, that is a great episode of me being so happy that we all watched Troll 2.
Yeah.
And you two being miserable that you're like, I can't believe I had to watch this.
Well, that's embarrassing. I'm sitting here the entire time thinking that you're talking about the Troll movies with Justin Timberlake.
Oh my
God. Not thinking about Troll 2.
Oh, I was like,
get out of here.
Are you serious?
I was like, why is Colton so obsessed with Trolls 2 right now?
The movie we literally covered on this show as like my celebration as being part of the podcast.
It makes so much sense now, guys.
Jill and I are gonna have to watch that movie sometime and do a one-on-one episode about it because it deserves to be, you know, rewatched again.
I think that should be the vetting process. If you're ever a guest on the show, you have to do a one-on-one watch with Colton of Troll 2.
Just Troll 2? Yes. Anyways, Grandpa Seth and Grandpa in this movie, same energy.
Yeah, I can see that. I probably wouldn't want my grandson to inject me with insulin when he has like mud and dirt all over his hands and he's
he knew what he was doing.
I mean, that mud's getting
You're on the
all
brink
in your...
of death. You know, you need that insulin. You know, if a little mud gets in there,
man.
Except you're probably gonna die later from like some sort of infection from all that mud.
From a needle prick.
The mud can still get in a needle prick.
He only had mud. Like he didn't even touch. No. There's gonna be no infection.
Jill's one of these like old outback people. Everyone needs a little mud inside of them.
Let them eat some dirt.
Yeah. I can't believe we haven't talked about like the camera work and the cinematography of this. I actually had a note about it that I thought it was really good. Like, adding to just the
I like that none of us respond.
Yeah, no.
I thought it was real good. We all just sit here in silence.
Everyone.
Yeah, it was.
No, I thought it was great too. It's very energetic. It kind of flies around. It's wild. All the lighting is very
the lighting is great.
Stylistic. It's just like crazy. Like once
very
again, it
surreal.
it adds to the surrealist kind of childlike vibe where it's just like it doesn't really feel real, but it also kind of feels like your childhood memories of Christmas, like when there was actually like still that magic in the air, you know, as we all grow out of it at some point. I very much enjoy it as well, and specifically just how many cuts there are in some of these like horror or action scenes, like specifically once again that car scene. It's like, I don't know, it has dozens of cuts and they're all like kind of interesting, like different angles on like their faces or like, you know, grabbing different weapons and stuff to try and break into the car and all that stuff. It has a lot of cuts, a lot of editing, but it's not like Taken or something. You can still track everything, it still makes sense. There's like tasteful use of slow-mo in this movie where it is cheesy, but it still feels like, okay, this kind of fits everything though. So yeah, no, I enjoyed all the camera work as well. I thought it was great, especially like, you know, going back to your favorite scene, Rowan, you know, you got to see Santa kicking the dog in that nice soft focus, of course.
That hurt me, man.
So bad. He kicks that dog like 4 times, and I'm like, I don't know if we had humane societies in movies back then. That dog was probably just like, damn, man. He's not getting kicked very hard.
That dog was fake as fuck, though.
What? He wasn't fake there.
The corpse was, but anyway.
Not when he's getting kicked, though.
Oh, I thought you meant he's like you're a fake friend, bitch. I was like, he's not fake. He defended him.
He's defending Thomas. He gave his life for Thomas, Jill. You're calling him a fake friend? Damn.
Oh, I thought I was like, Jesus, the fake corpse. Like, now all I'm imagining is no humane society, and they're just this kid actor. They're just bringing him a dead dog, and they're like, you need to hold this dog now for a while.
Just like extra traumatized, you know?
Speaking of fakeness, you know, when our villain Santa grabs that, what is it, spray paint? White spray paint?
The white spray snow.
Fake snow,
Around, like,
he
the
does his
windowsills
hair,
and stuff.
he does his beard with it. That's when I knew this man wasn't human.
Yeah, it's just like gross, man. That's crazy. You know?
He could have gotten a wig and been on Mike's wig list.
Yes, exactly.
But they didn't go that route.
And he does that, and then it cuts to him, and he's just like sitting in the chair, and he's just like,
he's so creepy,
like, just sitting there smiling, like just staring off, just like he's so proud of himself. You know, it's just like, all right, cool, dude. Like,
I thought of this all by myself.
Yeah. I thought like when he lures Santa into the sauna with the walkie-talkie, like I thought that was a pretty clever little beat. And then I like it on the other end when Santa breaks out, you could tell like the door handle is just like not natural like door handle or anything, like, and the pipe's not natural pipe or anything. It's just all like hanging off, all funny. And Santa's like so sweaty trying to get out of the sauna. Or God, there was another moment here that I wanted to talk about. Oh, let's just have a quick scan. Oh, Thomas, like, it's after he suits up, like, for the third act. Like, obviously, we talked about the beginning where he suits up and it's all energetic and has, like, almost like Eye of the Tiger playing as he's suiting up. In the third act, when he has to suit up with his war paint and Nerf gun, it has, like, very, like, scary horror music, like, when he's suiting up this time, and it's a very, like, different vibe. But I like that he does that, and then he gets on the PA system and he just constantly threatens Santa, like, here at the house, and he's like, come get me! You know, it's so good. Yeah. There's the one jump scare after a big chase sequence where Thomas goes up into like his mom's office or the attic or something to get the phone when it's ringing, and Santa just pops out of nowhere and says, do you want me to dial for you, Thomas? Like, there's all these like little beats throughout the movie that I forgot, like, just as we were talking about, but like I'm scanning my notes, I'm like, man, there's a lot of weird little beats in this movie that work.
There was no office.
Yeah. I was like, what is that? It's just like an attic, right? Like, it's not an office.
With a table and a phone and a chair. That's it.
Yeah, I was like, they keep calling it her office. It's like, well, what does she do up there? Maybe she takes some meetings with Roland up there, but I mean, it's not a real office, you know?
Yeah, he just like rails her on that table.
Absolutely. Yeah. Blowtorch. Thomas with a blowtorch. Like, we never really gave Thomas his time for being like, his mom says he's good with computers. The guy somehow manages to get his home security system on his wrist in the 80s so he can swap between all the cameras.
With a screen.
locks down the whole house from his, his wrist. And then also he winds up being able to like cut into the metal with like a blowtorch to kind of disable the security system. Like it's just craziness. Like when I watch the movie and I'm just going along with it, I'm like, sure, Thomas can probably do that, like sure, why not?
I bought it. Yeah.
The sign of a good movie. You're like, yeah, 100%. This could happen.
I mean, he had such confidence, and kudos to this little child actor, but he like really sold it. Like, if he didn't exude that confidence, then it would have been kind of lame. But he was there to party.
I think he was having the time of his life on this movie. He looked like he was like thoroughly enjoying it. And then like some of the shit he has to do is like messed up, but I still think he was enjoying it. Like when he has to give JR like the warrior's burial where he makes the cross with the swords and everything, and then uses that sight to lure Santa down and shoot him with like a flaming Nerf gun and like the explosion and shit. It's just wild. I'm just like, what is this? Like, I remember the first time I watched this, I was like howling, like laughing at it. I was just like, this is amazing. Like, this is so good. But yeah, I mean, there's just all these little moments that I just thought are fun to point out that,
Colton, can I tell you something?
Sure.
Did you know that he was part of the visual effects for Avatar?
Who, the kid? Thomas?
The kid! And the Batman! And Edge of Tomorrow! And...
No way!
Suicide Squad, Dark
name.
He is a genius.
American Gods. Like, literally, I'm going through his IMDb and I'm like, what the fuck?
Dude, I'm so happy that he continued to have, like, a career. Like, I just kind of assumed this was
wild.
A kid. Because, like, I didn't go into his IMDb. I just glanced at his picture, and his picture is just him from this movie.
It's from that movie, yeah.
Yeah, so I'm like, okay, obviously he starred in this movie as one cult classic movie, but, he probably went and got a real job or, not in film, right? That's awesome that he continued to come on. He's a visual visual effects
and Cinderella.
Supervisor. Yeah.
The live action.
Yeah, I like to imagine people only hire him because he's the kid from this movie. They're like, we're working on a new Avatar. We got to get that kid from Deadly Games. Hire him up.
All right. One last thing, I guess, that we have to talk about. The grenade on the train.
That was cute.
That was an insane moment in this movie. I was watching it, and I was just like, wait, are they going to actually blow up Grandpa? Because I couldn't remember what happened to Grandpa. And, like, he's in a suit of armor. He's in soft focus in the background here, and the train is heading right towards Grandpa. I was literally like, bro, they're going to blow him up. And then in the third act, Grandpa's gonna still be alive and it's gonna be sick. So yeah, I was on the edge of my seat. I'm very thankful that Grandpa didn't get blown up.
Me too.
But once again, that's just like a crazy thing for a kid to come up with. Like, this like fuse and the train like hitting the wall and setting the fuse off to blow up a grenade. It's just like some wild stuff.
Well, I thought, like, because I also was like, oh, shit, they're definitely going to kill his grandfather. But I thought that's what was interesting is, like, obviously the dog dies and all these, like, periphery characters kind of die, but, like, that are never really interacting with the kid overly. But I thought it was, like, they did a real good job at still making it seem, like, so harrowing and, like, tragic for the kid, like 80 of his friends died, then I was like, yeah, like I'm feeling for this kid, but like the kid doesn't know like the cop dies or the delivery driver dies.
No.
And, it's good for one of these movies to actually, like the kid gets like cut up. The kid, like, it's not like the kid was untouchable.
Yeah, he literally gets like stabbed falling down the stairs, right? Like he's running down the stairs, rushing to, I think it's like his grandpa's side or something, isn't it? And he gets stabbed and And
he like cleans it up with alcohol and has like the belt in his mouth.
Yeah,
that
just like
good.
An 80s action movie like star, right? Like, and he has the splint on his leg and he's limping around for the rest of the movie. Like it's just Thomas is a badass. He's great.
Let's land the plane and get into rating this. If you're new to the program, our rating system is nay, okay, yay, or slay. Colton, what would you rate Deadly Games?
So I think this movie is just like a whole lot of fun. I thoroughly enjoy myself watching it. I think Santa is suitably like creepy. The score goes absolutely crazy. That like it just makes no sense really. It's just like some dude going crazy on the score the entire time. We barely talked about it, but like it doesn't really fit a lot of the time for a kids movie or a horror movie. It's just like he's doing something and it kind of works, which
it goes hard actually.
Yeah, I appreciate it. I think
Put
the
it on
lighting,
the playlist.
yeah, the lighting is really stylish, and like I think it really adds to the nighttime scenes in particular. Like once again, it's not subtle remotely, but it kind of adds to this surrealist kind of childlike style. Miniatures are quaint, just adds to the whole vibe of the movie as well. You know, I already mentioned like Thomas and his grandfather. They're excellent, but specifically like Thomas, he's silly, he's endearing, he's a genius, he's super capable, and you know, he's just a kid. He's great. So yeah, I think overall the movie's excellent. I'm going to give it a SLEIGH. It's a lot of fun, you know,
okay.
And it's also short. It's not a long movie, and don't get me wrong, it takes a little while to get to the actual like horror part of the movie, but before that, you're still just enjoying your time with Thomas and his grandfather. So it's a SLEIGH from me. Holiday horror classic, this one. Everyone should check it out. Who should I throw it to? You know what? I'll throw it back to you, Rowan. What would you rate this?
Yeah, so I had a good time with this. Better than I thought I might have had. You know, I was thinking on the physical media side, I knew, like you said, that Vinegar Syndrome put this out. And Vinegar Syndrome's always notorious for, like, hit or miss releases of... Sometimes
Absolutely
they put out garbage.
Nothing.
Yeah.
It's just the movie. No like special features. Nothing at all. Not like a little documentary behind the scenes.
Well,
nothing.
And I'm thinking more of the movies. Usually,
the movie looked excellent.
But usually people are like, they either put out a movie that should never be put out because it's terrible, or like a cult classic. So I didn't know what I was going into. I watched it. I was very pleasantly surprised at this one. I had a lot of fun with it. Like I said, I thought the horror was way more horror than I was actually expecting. I might have been expecting a little further of a, you know, maybe like a little more adult Home Alone, but maybe not much more. Where, like I said before, I just think this is really gets into a horror movie, and it is pretty harrowing. The only thing that I think it didn't hold it back for me, but which is kind of a shame about this, and I don't know if it's kind of offensive for French people, but I just think it's a shame it's French, because I think that's gonna make people not watch it. I think where if this was in English, like I think this would already be a huge classic film. I just think, you know,
true, yeah.
There's people out there that this is just they're like, I'm not sitting there and reading this movie. So, you know, we all have people like that in our lives. I just think that's really holding it back, and it's a shame. You know, if that is you, I think maybe give it a chance, because it is awesome. It even just visually is amazing. Like, lots of great camera techniques, all that kind of stuff. I'm going to give it like a very strong yay. I had a really good time with it. I don't know if it's like my all-time, you know, Christmas holiday favorite now, but I will definitely probably rewatch this on the holidays very often, because I think it was definitely a time. Let's go to you, Jill.
All right, I am going to jump on that bandwagon and also give it a very strong yay. I don't know what's like holding me back from giving it a SLEIGH, because I loved everything about it. You know, it's to me the French equivalent of Home Alone. I love Home Alone. I love this. I love that it's French. I love that there's real horror. Love all the traps. The house was cool. Cool shots, decent villain, and then the acting is what really sold it for me. Of, you know, Thomas and then his grandfather. They were amazing. Super fun. I had a good time watching it. But yeah, it's still not like my top favorite movie, but it's a yay. And how do you rate it, Mike?
I'm also going to give it a yay. I really enjoyed it. I thought it was a lot of fun. It was definitely, like, I found it a little bit more charming, and, like, the actors and the characters to be a bit more endearing than I was expecting, which was really nice. I loved all their relationships, and the actors were great. And it was really aesthetically pleasing, too, which I was not expecting. I love that, like, soft filter and all the camera work and the lighting and the fucking setting. Like I said, it was like watching this kid dressed up as Rambo running through Resident Evil. So I was like, love it. Absolutely love it. And frankly, any movie that features and ends on a bizarre, never-before-heard Bonnie Tyler French Christmas banger, I'm in for. So, yeah, it was a total yay for me. I don't know why I'm not giving it a slay, but it's a yay. It's a very strong yay. I loved it. I'll watch it again. At least once every couple Christmases.
Hell yeah.
I think that's pretty fair. 3 yays and a sleigh, or as Colton heard it, just 4 sleighs.
Yeah.
Oh no, I think strong yays are fair for this as well. I can definitely think of like ways you can improve on this movie, and I specifically think as a horror movie, like a little bit more blood or a little bit more like some of the kills would have helped a little bit, like kind of just get it into the horror, vibe a little bit more. It's just when I watched this movie a couple of years ago, I was just absolutely shocked by what I was watching. I was just like, what is this movie? I'm like,
it's a big drop.
Yeah, it was just crazy.
So with that, we told you what we thought of the film, and we asked you what you thought, and we did have a couple answers come in. So we'll start. A friend of the podcast, Anthony, wrote in and said, Deadly Games is a fun Home Alone Christmas horror movie. It's an absolute slay. And he made sure to write slay as in Christmas sleigh, because he is with the season. So,
cute.
Another sleigh to join Colton. And then we had Death by DVD write in and say, I've only seen it once, but I really enjoyed myself and definitely loved the Vinegar Syndrome release. It's packed. So it must have a ton of special features in it.
That's weird. So maybe on the actual Blu-ray it has special features and the 4K doesn't, because I explored the 4K. It just has 5 scenes, and if you click on it, it's just 5 scenes throughout the movie, right?
Okay, maybe
the Blu-ray specifically rather than the 4K has something that I missed.
Yeah, and that happens often, so maybe that's it. But yeah, maybe I'll have to pick that up then.
There's a 3-disc Blu-ray of it, by the way.
Oh, is there?
It has tons of stuff,
Who knows? Maybe there was another release that I just never knew about. I have the one that's like the really nice cover, like.
I think it's like a UK release or something from Europe.
Gotcha. Okay, so yeah, it's just it's possible I'm just missing some special features, which sucks because I definitely would have watched them in time.
For sure.
Yeah.
So with that, I guess we'll throw it over to the horrific hotline, and we're going to start with a question. We had a question come in appropriate for the holiday season. Death by DVD also wanted us to know, how does everyone celebrate the holiday season? So, yeah, I guess
I can start.
What do you do, Jill? You start us off.
I like to make a special Yule sacrifice.
Okay.
Blood for the blood god.
It's a dog, isn't it?
Oh.
It's not a dog. No, actually, I love Christmas. I love baking. That's normally what I do, is I bake like a bunch of different cookies. I make little tins, and I love wrapping gifts, and I love opening gifts, and I love decorating. So that is how I celebrate Christmas. No religious aspect whatsoever. Just, consumerism.
Nice. Yeah, with mine, there's definitely a little bit of a religious aspect, especially if I go home. Usually I have to do the whole church candlelight service, go to that, check it out. I will say sometimes there is like a decent musical performance, or they choreograph some numbers and stuff. Sometimes it is nice just to get in the Christmas season, hear some of those old
tunes.
I don't know if they're hymns really, like when they sing it at like the Christmas, they're more like carols, right? It's not like actual like straight up whatever. But when I'm doing kind of my own thing, one thing that we've started doing the past probably 3 or 4 years, on Boxing Day, I'll have a homemade pizza party, essentially, where we all like make our own dough, and everyone comes over and we roll out the pizzas, and we top it with all our different toppings, and you got the pizza stone going, and everyone's kind of cooking their own pizza all throughout the evening, and garlic fingers, and having a couple of drinks and whatnot.
Garlic fingers.
Yeah, well, we got to cook some garlic fingers as well.
Of course.
That sounds amazing.
Yeah, so yeah, we do that on Boxing Days usually when I'm home now, so that's awesome. It kind of stemmed from one year where I think it was just myself and one friend here in town, and it was like our first time where we had nothing at all to do on Christmas, so I spent the day at like the theater, and then Boxing Day I was like, hey, how about we just make some pizzas? So it's just kind of expanded from there, and last year I think we had like 7 or 8 people over making it all day.
I love that.
So yeah, that's
making traditions.
That's generally what I do over the holidays. Obviously, there's all the, wrapping gifts and unwrapping all that. But I'm someone who I hate unwrapping gifts in front of people that have given you the gift, because I feel like they're watching my reaction the entire time. And just like, I mean, bro, I'm 30, 31, like anything you're going to give me, I probably could have bought myself already. And it's like, of course I appreciate the gift, but I'm not going to like freak
You're such
out.
a Scrooge.
I'm not going to freak out and cry as if I'm like 13 or something, right? Like, and that's the thing. I feel like especially some family members are expecting me to freak out as if I just got a skidoo or something.
What if
right?
they
like,
get you?
Put on the act, man.
What if they buy you a new A24 shirt though? Do you cry then? Or?
Listen, I'd be pretty excited. I missed out on that Death Stranding A24 shirt the other day. So I mean, if someone managed to get me that for Christmas, maybe I'd tear up a little bit. That's
the only way.
Yeah, straight to my heart with A24. What about you, Mike? Any Christmas holiday traditions?
I don't really enjoy the holidays that much. For years.
All right, Scrooge. What about you, Ryan?
I am Scrooge. I go over to my folks' house, and usually it's like my brother and his stepkids and girlfriend, and we'll spend the day together. And then usually Boxing Day, I'm doing the Margot Kidder. Well, for 3 days, I'm doing the Margot Kidder Black Christmas whole cosplay. So yeah, Ro, what about you?
Yeah, I'm not I've been trying the last couple of years to get more in the Christmas. We've never been big Christmas people. That's why I always make the joke. Halloween's basically my Christmas, and then my year's over.
Yeah.
I usually work just where my job is a like first responder nursing job. We're always on call. I usually work during the holidays because I'm always like, why wouldn't I? Because I make a crap load of money. So, and I use that so I can buy obnoxious Blu-rays and 4Ks all year. But, we put the tree up. I enjoy doing stuff like that. And by enjoy doing that, I mean, I enjoy watching Exilia do that. I like the tree up and decorated. I don't want to have to do it. I usually don't have to because I'll put something up and Exilia will say it's play strong or something. So I'm like, oh, you just do it.
That is weaponized incompetence.
I'm just saying that she changes around anyway. This year she was like, no, I'm not going to do that. Put your thing up. And then like 20 minutes later, I caught her moving it somewhere else on the tree because she's like, yeah, it's too busy. It shouldn't be there. So I was like,
you did a shit job.
Yeah, I was like, okay. But my main thing is watch a movie. So I try to get in the Christmas spirit, watch lots of new Christmas stuff I haven't seen. Of course, my regulars at some point I'm going to have watched, Scrooged and the Garfield Christmas special. And, I always watch like the 80s claymation holiday special that's like pretty famous. That used to be on TV. Stuff like that. So it's really, stuff like that. I'll wait. I don't see my parents till usually later, like Boxing Day or after. So I usually wait and we all watch National Lampoon Christmas Vacation together. That's like me and Mom's movie. So I save that for her. And that's pretty much it, and then like everyone else, when I am off, I see family and eat too much food and, you know how it is. You go see family and then 20 minutes into it, you're like, all right, I'm ready to go home. We only got 8 more hours, so.
What I should have mentioned is when I go home for the holidays with the religious aspect, there's always a couple of arguments and then you got to go see the extended family and everyone just fights and bickers. And, that's the true, meaning of the season, just fighting with family.
I was going to say, I have a question for the podcast. What's your guys' favorite Christmas movie?
Oh, geez.
Mine is Jingle All the Way.
Annabelle's Wish, because nobody knows that movie. It's about a little cow that wants to be a reindeer, and she has one wish, and she wishes that she wants to fly. And it's a great animated movie that I haven't watched in 20 years. So.
And you're going to shit on Howl's Moving Castle?
Bro,
don't talk to me.
You haven't seen Annabelle's Wish. Watch Annabelle's Wish and get back to me.
Okay.
No, honestly, I don't really have any Christmas movies that I kind of seek out like that. When I was a kid, I used to watch, no joke, Annabelle's Wish. But also, like, I'd have to watch, like, the VeggieTales Christmas movies every year.
Poor soul.
Which, I don't know. As a kid, I thought they were bangers. I don't know if they actually are. I should probably go back and reassess them, maybe.
We want to know.
as a kid, I did love those. And I mean, honestly, we just reviewed Deadly Games as a more modern Christmas movie that I've seen more recently. I really enjoy it. And I think my silly answer is Jurassic World, because if you watch that, it actually takes place over Christmas.
Yeah, and I kind of said mine already. Like every year I watch National Lampoon, Scrooged, and Garfield's Christmas Special. The only one I didn't mention is I usually always watch the original Black Christmas. I try to always get that in because it's so fantastic. What about you, Mike?
National Lampoons and Black Christmas for sure.
Yeah, we're basic.
I can't help it. Listen, they're classic bangers for a reason.
That's right. That's right. So with that, let's throw it over to the actual phone line where Nicholas called in. And like I said, I'm interested to see what he says, because he mentioned this was insanely difficult for him to find.
Oh, no.
In the email for him
to
to watch.
Poor Nicholas. He was on like the Russian campsites, with the the lottery ads popping up.
Just watched Deadly Games, a French movie I hadn't heard of until last week when you guys picked it. And I didn't look up much about the movie, but after about 5 minutes when a rip-off version of Eye of the Tiger started playing over the first of the many montages in this movie, I knew it wasn't the movie I expected. Overall, I think the movie actually wanted to be more of an action movie than a horror movie, maybe. Especially in the second half, there is like
Nicholas better not be a hater.
Commando, to the Rambo movies, to Die Hard, to all those big 80s action films. And I'm not sure if the movie wants to be a comedy or a satire to those movies, or if it takes itself too seriously. I'm not sure. I didn't quite vibe with the aesthetic of the movie, because some of the more serious scenes with the kid becoming more and more traumatized, especially towards the end, as well as his dog being killed by the Santa Claus imposter, was really heavy stuff. And then it is followed up by yet another montage of him preparing traps, or yet another slow motion sequence with him either screaming or doing something. Yeah, I can see a visual value to this movie. I enjoyed it while I watched it. But I think I won't be watching it anytime soon again, so it won't make my Christmas movie list, especially not my Christmas horror movie list. It's nowhere near anything like Black Christmas or the original Black Christmas or Gremlins, but it is better than any of the Silent Night, Deadly Night movies, so it's got that going for it. I guess overall it's a strong okay for me, but not a yay.
I love how much I feel like Nicholas hates this movie.
100%. That was the nicest way he could have said it.
Yeah.
And he did go through a lot. I will mention, he said in his email that he had to watch what feels like a bootleg VHS quality version of the film on Facebook.
Oh wow.
And he said he had to reactivate his Facebook account just to get access to it.
I'm so sorry.
I don't want to be the one to tell him that it is on archive.org in 1080p for free.
Dude, Nicholas is a real one. For real.
Yeah.
Yes,
thank
future,
you Nicholas,
for that.
If we pick something that's that hard to get a hold of, I mean, just let us know. I'm sure we can figure out how to get you an MP4 or something.
Yeah.
One
of us will have it, yeah.
You don't have to watch it on Facebook. That's... I think that's
Dire.
worse than even the way that, Rowan watches most of his movies.
I want to watch all my movies on Facebook now.
Just with your aunts and, all these like people you haven't talked to in 20 years commenting on it.
Yeah.
Oh my. Well, if you want to be like Nicholas and leave us a voicemail or, a question or comment, review of the movie, you can do so by just sending it to us on our social medias or via our email, itsleightspodcast@gmail.com. Basically, if you get it to us, we'll make sure that it makes the show. If you made it this far, in our episode, you're not doing so already, you can follow us on our socials at It Slays Podcast. We're on Instagram, Facebook, Twitter, Slasher, Letterboxd, Threads, Blue Sky. Do we even use some of these? I say it every time.
Them.
You post on them? Okay, I certainly do not.
We're in unison.
All right. So we actually are on these platforms. You can follow us at It Slays Podcast. And if you want to support the show, like our horror hounds, Holly, Nicholas, Patrick, Mark, Steven, Joy, Carvey, Dan, Brian, and Trevor, which I feel like there's a couple of extra names added to this now, which is pretty sick. Gain access to the Patreon exclusive show Stream Screams, hosted by Jill, and get episodes of this here main show 48 hours early. Be sure to head on over to patreon.com/itslayspodcast and choose whatever tier works best for you. Now, Rowan, go ahead and plug the playlist. Is any of this weird ass music gonna make it? I feel like it's not on Spotify, but you know,
the whole album is on Spotify. FYI,
it is.
I have it on my. I was looking for the Bonnie Tyler song because I was like, I know that's not on any of her fucking albums. And when I did, I found the whole soundtrack album is on Spotify, so I immediately added it to my library.
Oh shit! All right, Rowan. Some of this has to make.
Yeah, it's gonna make it. It's gotta make it.
It's bangers. Yeah.
So go to Spotify to the It Slays Podcast horrific playlist. If you have any problems finding it, you can go to any of the social media that Colton mentioned and go to the Linktree link in the bio. Click on it. It'll take you directly there. We upload scores or licensed music from iconic horror movies or horror movies we love or horror movies we review. It's up there. We update it pretty regularly, so go listen to it. I'm sure there's like some other holiday horror Christmas music that we've put on there from past episodes. So yeah, go on there and have yourself a merry horror Christmas. So get that going. And from there, we have like a fairly big announcement. I guess this is the last full episode of the year that you're getting. Yeah. So, also hopefully everyone has a good New Year's. But, Colton, why don't you let people know what we're doing for the new year?
Yeah, we've been kind of scheming behind the scenes, just trying to figure out how to shake things up, just because going, round robin, picking an episode every couple of weeks, we were just like, we're getting tired of it a little bit, but also we just want to try new things. So in the new year, we're going to try out themed months. For some months, we're not committing that every single month is going to have a theme. Basically, if we can come up with a corny theme or a corny title to kind of, label the month, we'll pick some movies that kind of fit that theme. I stole it pretty shamelessly from one of my favorite movie podcasts, 70mm, and I think it generally works pretty great with those guys over there. So it's just like, hey, we'll try it out on this. It's a little tougher in horror to always pick a themed month that only works for horror movies. Like, obviously over there, you can just pick any movie in existence. But for the first month of 2024, we're going to be doing Wanuary, celebrating the work of James Wan. So we're going to be picking a couple of James Wan movies in January to review. I think Rowan's picking the first one, and then I think we might throw it to the audience for the second one, just because I think we've only reviewed one James Wan movie, the original Saw, right? I think that's the only thing we've reviewed.
Yeah, I believe we did Saw. That was
so wild. The guy has Insidious, he has The Conjuring, he has Dead Silence, which I name dropped earlier. There's a lot of different things to choose from.
He has Fast Seven.
Fast 7, Aquaman 1 and 2, maybe do a double feature, Aquaman 1 and 2.
Some may call those a horror movie, so...
Absolutely. Rowan, how about you announce the first movie that we'll be doing?
I think this is the first time we've ever done like a Now Slain type thing. Because when we reviewed this movie, it wasn't Now Slain. It was the Movie House Horrors, I believe.
You guys did it, I think, for Midsummer.
Okay, yes, right? I am mistaken. So this is the second time it's ever been done. Second time. Where we're going to do a full episode on the very controversial and, kind of infamous film now of Wan's called Malignant. We're going to talk about Malignant to start the new year off. I'm very excited.
Yay.
Because famously, Colton was on that episode and...
As a guest, I believe. Right?
As a guest, and I believe he talked about it very terribly. Very terribly. The internet was not happy with them.
I'm going to have to go back and listen to that episode. And I hate listening to episodes when I'm on them, but I got to see what I had to say and see if, my opinions hold up or if I've changed in the past couple of years. We'll see.
Yeah, get Malignant into your eye holes and just be on the lookout. We had the new episode of the new revamped Stream Screams drop, and by the time you listen to this, you might have got a little holiday Christmas present from the crew for Stream Screams. And yeah, I don't know, we might have some plans for a little Now Slaying episode. I won't reveal anything quite yet, but you might get a special edition Now Slaying for the holidays also, or at least before the new year starts. So just keep an eye out, and yeah, we'll be back next year with bigger, better, and maybe worse takes. We don't know. We'll try our best.
Well, yeah, and I just, before we wrap things up completely, I just want to say thanks to obviously all the listeners and fans. I mean, this year was the year that we launched the Patreon, and obviously when I just had to read out all those names, we're upwards of 10 patrons now. And even though I recognize a lot of the names from my personal life of friends and family, I still appreciate all the support, and it's nice to see that the show is still growing and kind of resonating with people, even outside of my family and friends circle. So, I appreciate all the support, and, hopefully we'll have something fun in the new year with these themed months or however we take things.
So yeah, thanks for all the support. We'll be back in the new year. As always, I am your humble host, Rowan.
Bye, it's Mike.
I'm Colton.
And it's Jill.
Where do you think you're going? Nobody's leaving. Nobody's walking out on this fun, old-fashioned family Christmas. No, we're all in this together. This is a full-blown 4-alarm holiday emergency here. We're gonna press on, and we're gonna have the happiest Christmas since Bing Crosby tap danced with Danny fucking Kaye. And when Santa squeezes his fat white ass down that chimney tonight, he's gonna find the jolliest bunch of assholes this side of the nut house.